They call themselves humans, Fleet Commander Zurich said, his voice barely audible over the constant hum of our ship's propulsion system. And that monstrosity they are flying? They call it Titan-class. I stared at the holographic projection, my four eyes widening simultaneously. The ship was enormous. No, enormous doesn't capture it. Ridiculously, absurdly, unnecessarily massive would be closer. And yet somehow still elegant, with sweeping curves despite its bulk. Our entire battle fleet could fit inside its hangar bay with room to spare. Well, that's not compensating for anything, I muttered, adjusting my uniform collar. How do we miss something this big entering our territory? That's the problem, Lieutenant Drex, Commander Zarek replied, clearly not appreciating my attempt at humor. It didn't enter our territory. It appeared. One moment nothing, the next moment that. I studied the readouts, scrolling beside the hologram. Energy signatures off the charts. Hull composition unknown. Weapons systems numerous and varied, to put mildly. So they teleported here? Wormhole technology. Unknown. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. In 13,000 languages. 13,000. My middle left, I twitched involuntarily. Yes, including all 7 of our major dialects. With perfect syntax and cultural idioms. Now that was unsettling. Our first contact protocols involved years of studying alien languages before attempting communication. These humans had mastered our language well enough to include regional jokes. What are they saying? I asked, dreading the answer. Hello. We come in peace. Would you like some coffee? I blinked rapidly. Coffee. Apparently, it's a beverage. They have attached molecular diagrams. Seems to be a stimulant. Mild poison to their predators, but they drink it for it. They poison themselves for entertainment. They call it acquiring a taste. Commander Zurich gestured to the hologram, and it zoomed in on what appeared to be a loading bay. Hundreds of smaller vessels were visible, ranging from personal transports to what were clearly military craft. They have invited a delegation aboard. You are going, Lieutenant. Me? I sputtered, my throat sacs inflating in alarm. Why me? Because you are the only xenobiologist with combat training. And because you volunteered. I did no such thing. You will. Tomorrow at the briefing. Commander Zarek's face plates shifted into what passed for a smile in our species. Consider it a promotion opportunity. Fantastic. A suicide mission dressed up as career advancement. Just what I'd hoped for when I joined the fleet. The shuttle ride to the human vessel was tense. Our pilot, next sir, kept muttering calculations under his breath, clearly convinced we were flying into a trap. Security Chief Vox sat cleaning her pulse weapon for the 3rd time. Diplomat Kola was reviewing language files, her slender fingers dancing across her data pad. I don't trust them, Vox said suddenly. A species this advanced? They should have been detected years ago. Maybe they were hiding, I suggested. An entire civilization? From galactic sensors? I shrugged. Maybe they are new. Vox snorted. Nobody goes from primitive to that. She gestured toward the view screen where the Titan-class ship now filled our entire field of vision in less than 10,000 years. Actually, Kola interjected without looking up. Their transmission includes a brief history. They claim to have achieved spaceflight only about 300 years ago. The shuttle fell silent. That's impossible, Nexer said. Agreed, said Vok, that I wasn't so sure. In my studies of evolutionary patterns across the galaxy, I'd come across outliers. Species that made technological leaps that defied conventional development models. They were rare, but they existed. We're being scanned, Nexer announced. Multiple frequencies. Very thorough. Are they targeting us? Vok's hand moved to her weapon. No, it's passive scanning only. Wait, they are hailing us. A voice filled our cabin, speaking perfect Central Galactic. Approaching shuttle, welcome. Please maintain your current course. We have prepared landing Base 7 for your convenience. Medical teams are standing by to ensure atmospheric compatibility, though our analysis suggests our standard mix will be comfortable for your physiology. We are really excited to meet you. The voice sounded young, enthusiastic. It was hard to tell with aliens, but there was an energy there that seemed at odds with the military precision I'd expected. They sound rather cheerful for a potentially hostile first contact, I observed. Classic predatory behavior, Vok replied grimly. Lull the prey into a false sense of security. Or maybe they are genuinely friendly, Quola suggested. Nobody builds ships that size to make friends, Vok countered. As we approached the designated landing bay, I got my first close-up look at the human vessel. The hull wasn't the smooth, continuous material I'd expected. Instead, it appeared patched together, with different metals and alloys clearly visible. Some sections looked ancient, others brand new. Their construction methods are unusual, I remarked. Nexer nodded. It's not built to any standard I recognize. Look at those propulsion units. They don't match each other. And those weapons arrays? At least 3 different technological generations. It's like they just kept adding pieces as they went along. Or, Vok said darkly, they have scavenged technology from other species. That was a disturbing thought. We'd encountered species who advanced through conquest before. It never ended well, for anyone. The landing bay was enormous, easily large enough to accommodate 100 shuttles our size. As we touched down, I noticed numerous other craft of various designs. Most didn't look human in origin. They have visitors, I noted, or trophies, Vok muttered. The shuttle door opened, and we were greeted by a rush of air that smelled faintly of something I couldn't identify. Not unpleasant, just alien. Our atmospheric analyzers confirmed it was safe to breathe, though slightly richer in oxygen than we were accustomed to. A group of humans approached. I recognized them from the briefing materials. Bipedal, varied skin tones, bilateral symmetry, peculiar fur patches on some of their heads. They walked with a strange bouncing gait that seemed inefficient, but somehow suited their structure. 1 step forward, taller than the others, with dark skin and what appeared to be artificial body modifications. Metal and circuitry were visible at their temples and hands. "Welcome aboard the Odyssey," the human exclaimed. "I'm Captain Isabella Jordan." She slashed her pronouns, if your language makes those distinctions. "We are absolutely thrilled to make your acquaintance." Quola stepped forward and performed our traditional greeting gesture. "I am Diplomat Quola of the United Galactic Alliance. These are my colleagues, Security Chief Vok, Pilot Nexer, and Xenobiologist Lieutenant Drex." Captain Jordan beamed at us. Literally beamed. Her face contorted in what I recognized from our briefing as a smile, displaying alarmingly white teeth. On our world, showing teeth was a prelude to violence. Here, apparently, it signified pleasure. Disconcerting. "Wonderful to meet you all. Please follow me. We have prepared a reception area where we can be comfortable for initial discussions. We have refreshments suitable for your biology, and we are eager to learn more about your culture." As we followed the captain through corridors teeming with human activity, I couldn't help but notice the diversity among them. They varied dramatically in size, coloration, and modifications. Some appeared entirely biological, others extensively augmented with technology. They wore different uniforms, spoke different languages amongst themselves, yet seemed to function as a cohesive unit. "Your crew is very diverse," I commented. "Oh yes," Captain Jordan replied enthusiastically. "We have representatives from all human colonies in most Earth nations, plus about 800 non-humans from 27 allied species." I nearly stumbled. 27 allied species. Well, 34 if you count the non-corporeal ones, but they don't generally use the common areas. Vok and I exchanged glances. 34 species working together on one ship? The logistics alone would be nightmarish. "And you all get along?" I asked carefully. Captain Jordan laughed. The sound was melodic but strange to my hearing apparatus. "Oh goodness, no. We argue constantly. The Andromedans and the Plex have been feuding over temperature settings for decades. The maintenance crews from Europa and Mars have an ongoing prank war. And don't get me started on the cafeteria menu debates. But we make it work." "How?" Vok asked bluntly. "Compromise, communication, and coffee." "Mostly coffee," Captain Jordan replied with another tooth display. "Speaking of which, we have prepared some for you to try. if you are interested. Our molecular analysis suggests it should be safe for your consumption. We entered what appeared to be a conference room, though unlike any I'd seen before. Rather than the formal, sterile setting I expected, the space looked almost recreational. Various seating options accommodated different physiologies. The lighting was soft. Plants grew along one wall. A window offered a spectacular view of space and, distressingly, our own battle fleet, which looked tiny and vulnerable from this vantage point. "Please, make yourselves comfortable," Captain Jordan said, gesturing to seats that had clearly been designed with our anatomy in mind. As we settled in, humans brought in trays of containers holding various substances. One was placed before each of us, a dark liquid that steamed slightly. "Coffee," Captain Jordan announced proudly. "Our traditional welcome beverage." I stared at the poison. Diplomat Kola, ever courageous, lifted her container and took a small sip. Her eyes widened. "It's intense," she said diplomatically. Captain Jordan laughed again. "Yes, it's an acquired taste, as I mentioned in our transmission. Some sugar or cream might help for first-timers." "What?" Vok asked abruptly. The room went quiet. "Why reach out to us? Why invite us here? What do you want?" Captain Jordan's expression shifted, becoming more serious. "Direct. I appreciate that." She leaned forward. "The simple answer is that we are explorers. We want to meet new species, learn about new cultures, exchange knowledge and resources." And the complicated answer, I found myself asking. The captain's eyes, only two of them, I still found that strange, met mine directly. "We're looking for allies. The galaxy is changing. New powers are emerging. Old barriers are falling. We believe cooperation offers better odds of survival for everyone than isolation or conflict." "You are afraid of something," Vok stated, not asked. Captain Jordan was silent for a moment. "Not afraid. Cautious. There are entities in the deeper regions that are concerning." "What entities?" Kola asked. Before the captain could answer, an alarm sounded. Not loud or panicked, but insistent. A voice came from nowhere. Captain Jordan to command. "Priority Alpha." The captain stood immediately. "Please excuse me. My first officer will continue our discussion. This is probably nothing to worry about." As she left, another human entered, shorter, lighter-skinned, with facial fur and more prominent augmentations. First Officer Marcus Wong. He introduced himself. "Sorry about the interruption. Deep space sensors sometimes get twitchy." But I noticed he didn't meet our eyes when he said it. "What exactly are your sensors detecting?" I asked. Wong hesitated, then apparently decided on honesty. "An anomaly at the edge of this system. Similar to how our ship appeared to you, actually. Something's coming. We are just not sure what yet." As if on cue, the lights dimmed momentarily. The artificial gravity fluctuated. On the view screen that dominated one wall, a point of space seemed to bend, then tear open. Through the rift emerged a ship that, no, not a ship. A nightmare made metal. Where the human vessel was enormous but somehow elegant, this new arrival was wrong. Its proportions defied conventional design. Its surface rippled as though not entirely solid. Weapons bristled from every conceivable angle. "Oh hell," Wong whispered. "They followed us." "Who are they?" Kola asked. Her voice barely audible. Wong's expression was grim. "The reason we are looking for allies." The lights flickered again. The newcomer was hailing us. "Should we return to our shuttle?" I asked Vok quietly. She shook her head, eyes fixed on the view screen. "We'd never make it back to our fleet." First Officer Wong tapped a console, and a new image appeared on the screen. The creature that faced us resembled nothing I'd ever studied. Multiple appendages, an exoskeleton that seemed partially metallic, and eyes, dozens of them, covering most of what might be called a face. It spoke in a language I'd never heard before, clicks and whistles and electronic tones. Somehow, I understood every word. "Omans, you have violated the Accord. You have entered prohibited space. You have contacted immature species." Wong responded calmly. "We entered neutral territory. We responded to a distress signal. We have violated no agreements." "Lies," the creature hissed. "The punishment is harvesting. Prepare your ship." Wong cut the transmission. He turned to us, his expression grave. I apologize that your first contact with humanity has become complicated. Those are the collectors. They believe they have the right to control all interspecies contact in this quadrant. They are particularly interested in younger, spacefaring civilizations. What? I asked. Resources, technology, test subjects. They're not big on explaining their motives. Vox stood abruptly. This was your plan all along. Lure representatives from our fleet to use as bargaining chips. Wong looked genuinely shocked. What? No, we came to warn you about them. They have been systematically isolating and picking off emerging civilizations for centuries. A convenient story, Vox said, her hand moving to her weapon. The door slid open, and Captain Jordan returned, now wearing what was clearly battle armor. It's not a story, and we don't have time to argue about it. The collectors have deployed boarding craft. We have about 20 minutes before they attempt to take this ship. And if they do, they will go for your fleet next. I looked from the captain to the view screen, where the alien vessel now loomed larger. Something about their behavior patterns seemed familiar. They are hunters, I said suddenly. All eyes turned to me. Specific group dynamics, territorial marking behaviors. They're displaying classic apex predator syndrome. Meaning what exactly? Wong asked. Meaning they're bullies, I replied. They target those they perceive as weaker. They use intimidation as their first strategy. And if these truly are pack hunters, Captain Jordan caught on immediately. They will have a hierarchy. Weaknesses we can exploit. Lieutenant Drex, I could use your expertise in tactical. The rest of your delegation is welcome to return to your shuttle if you prefer. Vox stepped forward. If these collectors threaten my fleet, I stay and fight. Quola nodded her agreement. Even next, sir, usually keen to be behind flight controls, stood firm. Well then, Captain Jordan said with what I was beginning to recognize as her characteristic smile, welcome to the Odyssey's defense force. Let's show these collectors why it's a bad idea to hunt species who have made friends with humans. And for the first time since seeing that massive human ship appear in our space, I felt something unexpected. Hope. The next 20 minutes passed in a blur of activity. I found myself in the Odyssey's tactical center, a vast chamber filled with holographic displays and staffed by dozens of humans of all varieties. The room pulsed with energy and urgency, yet I noted a curious lack of panic. These humans were treating an impending attack by a vastly superior force with the annoyance one might reserve for unexpected rain during an outdoor meal. Lieutenant Drex, Captain Jordan called, gesturing me to his central platform. Tell us what you know about pack hunter psychology. All eyes turned to me, and I swallowed nervously. My specialty was xenobiology, not xenopsychology, but the basic principles were universal enough. Well, pack hunters typically establish clear dominance hierarchies. I began, surprised at how steady my voice sounded. They rely on intimidation first, actual violence second. They are usually risk-averse when confronted with unknown variables or unexpected resistance. Captain Jordan nodded thoughtfully. So if we present ourselves as more trouble than we are worth? Exactly, I continued, warming to the subject. They want easy prey. If the cost of hunting us exceeds the benefit, they will seek easier targets. Good, a new voice said. A human female, older than the others, with silver hair and more mechanical augmentations than seem possible for a functioning organism. We will give them something unexpected. Admiral Laura Hayes, Captain Jordan explained, our strategic operations commander. Hayes didn't waste time on pleasantries. The collectors have deployed 12 boarding vessels. Point defense is tracking, but they're using some form of adaptive shielding. We will neutralize what we can, but we should expect boarders. We're going to let them board. I asked incredulously. Hayes fixed me with a penetrating stare. Not just let them, encourage them. She gestured, and the central hologram changed to display the Odyssey's internal layout. Certain sections were highlighted in red. We are creating kill boxes, she explained, funneling them into prepared positions where we control every variable. Meanwhile, our main forces will be here. She pointed to an area near the ship's core, preparing for our counterstrike. Counterstrike? Vok had entered silently behind me. You plan to board their vessel? Not exactly, Hayes said with a smile that contained no warmth whatsoever. We plan to invite them to a party. A very loud, very surprising party. I looked at Captain Jordan for clarification, but she merely shrugged. Admiral Hayes has a flair for the dramatic. But her plans work. A alarm sounded and a voice announced, boarding craft impact in sectors 7, 12, and 19. Security teams in position. All non-combat personnel to designated safe zones. Hayes turned to Jordan. Captain, if you'd escort our guests to Observer Station Alpha, I believe they will find the view educational. Captain Jordan nodded and motioned for us to follow her. As we hurried through the corridors, I noticed the ship's atmosphere had changed. Crew members moved with purpose, many now armed or wearing protective gear. Yet still that strange lack of fear. If anything, some seemed almost eager. Your people don't seem particularly concerned about being invaded by technologically superior force. I remarked. Jordan laughed. Oh, the collectors have some impressive toys, but technologically superior? That's a stretch. But their ship, their weapons, are designed to intimidate rather than function efficiently, she finished for me. Form over function. It's a common mistake among species who rely on fear as a weapon. We entered a small room with walls that appeared to be transparent, offering a 360-degree view of the ship's interior. Various sections were displayed as holograms, allowing us to see multiple areas simultaneously. Observer Station Alpha, Jordan announced. From here, you can monitor the entire operation safely. We should be fighting alongside your troops, Vok protested. Appreciated, but unnecessary, Jordan replied. Besides, we need witnesses, unbiased observers, to report back what actually happened here. Collectors have a habit of rewriting history. The first visuals of the boarding parties appeared on one of the displays. The collectors were even more disturbing in motion than in static images. Their multi-jointed limbs moved with unsettling fluidity. Their weapons looked organic, almost alive. They advanced through the corridors of the Odyssey with practiced precision, until they hit the first kill box. The corridor they were traversing suddenly reconfigured. Walls shifted. The artificial gravity reversed. What had been floor became ceiling. Half the boarding party was abruptly separated from the rest. Then came the humans. They attacked from impossible angles, using the variable gravity to move in ways that defied conventional combat tactics. Some wore powered armor that amplified their already considerable strength. Others deployed drones that swarmed the collectors like angry insects. Still others wielded weapons that seemed to bend space itself, catching the invaders in localized time distortions that IT was brutal, efficient, and over in moments. What just happened? Quolo whispered beside me. Adaptive architecture, Jordan explained proudly. The Odyssey can reconfigure its internal structure on command. Combined with selective gravity manipulation, it gives us a rather substantial home field advantage. Similar scenes played out across the ship as more boarding parties were systematically isolated and neutralized. The collectors fought well, but they were clearly unprepared for the environment they found themselves in. You have faced them before, I realized aloud. Jordan nodded. 3 times. Each time, they have adapted. Each time, so have we. But why fight them at all? Why not simply avoid their territory? Because it's not their territory, Jordan replied, her voice hardening. They claim vast regions of space, declare them off-limits, then harvest the resources and subjugate any species unfortunate enough to evolve there. We have tried diplomacy. We have tried avoidance. Neither worked. On the displays, the last of the boarding parties was being contained. Admiral Hayes appeared on a communication screen. Phase 1 complete, she reported. Minimal casualties. 17 captives secured. Proceeding to Phase 2. Acknowledged, Jordan replied. She turned to us. This is where it gets interesting. The holographic displays shifted to show the exterior of the Odyssey. Small objects were detaching from various points on the hull, moving rapidly toward the collector vessel. Boarding parties? Vok asked. No, Jordan said. Gifts. The objects attached themselves to the collector ship's hull. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, simultaneously, they detonated. But instead of explosions, they released what appeared to be nanites. The tiny machines swarmed across the hull, forming intricate patterns. What are they doing? I asked, fascinated despite my apprehension. Reprogramming, Jordan replied. The collectors use semi-organic technology. Their ships are partially grown rather than built. Our nanites are adjusting their instructions. On the main viewer, the collector ship began to change. Its weapons retracted, its propulsion systems powered down. The menacing ripple of its hull stilled. "You're taking control of their ship," Nexer said, sounding both impressed and horrified. "Temporarily," Jordan assured us. "Just long enough to deliver our message." Admiral Hayes reappeared on screen. Communications established. Patching through to all stations. The image changed to show what appeared to be the command center of the collector vessel. Several of the multi-limbed creatures were visible, clearly agitated. One moved forward. "This violation will not stand," it chittered. "The collective will respond with full force." Hayes stepped into view on our side of the transmission. "You misunderstand the situation. This isn't a negotiation. This is a declaration. Human space and the territories of our allies are off-limits to collector activity. Any violation will be met with immediate and disproportionate response. You cannot dictate terms to the collective." "We just did," Hayes replied calmly. "Your boarding parties are contained. Your ship is temporarily under our control. We could destroy you both right now. Instead, we are letting you go with a warning and a demonstration." Hayes nodded to someone off-screen. On the exterior view, we watched as the nanites began moving again, concentrating on what appeared to be a weapons node. The node disintegrated, collapsing in on itself in a controlled implosion. "That was one of 12 primary weapons systems on your vessel," Hayes continued. "The rest will remain functional when we release control. The nanite programming we have introduced to your systems will self-delete after your departure. No permanent damage has been done, this time." The collector commander's many eyes blinked in what I assumed was their version of shock. "The collective does not forget," it warned. "Neither do we," Hayes responded. "Now, about the United Galactic Alliance represented by our guests here. They are now under human protection. Any action against them will be considered an action against humanity. Is that clear?" "Wait, what?" I exchanged startled glances with my teammates. Under human protection? When had that been decided? The collector commander's appendages twitched in what seemed like agitation. "The Alliance is an immature species group. They require collective guidance. They have chosen their own path," Hayes stated firmly, "and we respect their autonomy. Do you?" For a long moment, the collector was silent. Then, "The collective will consider your position." "Excellent," Hayes said with a predatory smile. "We will release control of your systems once you have cleared this sector. Safe travels." The transmission ended. Captain Jordan turned to us with an apologetic expression. "I hope you don't mind the presumption about protection status." It seemed the most expedient way to get them to back off. Quola stepped forward. "Captain, while we appreciate your intervention, such arrangements would require formal diplomatic processes. The Alliance cannot simply—" "Of course," Jordan interrupted smoothly. "No commitments have actually been made. We simply allowed the collectors to draw their own conclusions. If your government wishes to establish formal relations with humanity, we would welcome those discussions. If not," she shrugged. "The collectors don't need to know that." I found myself laughing. The others looked at me in surprise. "Something amusing, Lieutenant?" Vok asked stiffly. "Just appreciating the strategy," I replied. "The humans didn't just defeat the collectors physically. They outmaneuvered them psychologically, made themselves appear more trouble than they are worth, exactly as pack hunter theory would suggest." Captain Jordan gave me an approving nod. "Lieutenant Drex understands us." "I'm not sure I do," I admitted. "You possess technology far beyond what we anticipated. You could have simply destroyed the collector vessel. Why the elaborate display? Because we don't want to fight wars. We want to prevent them." She gestured at the displays, showing the now retreating collector ship. "They will report back. The story will spread. The more species who hear about the consequences of attacking those under human protection, fewer conflicts we will have to engage in. Strategic reputation management, Vok murmured, sounding almost impressed. Exactly, Jordan confirmed. Violence is inefficient. Deterrence is preferable. Admiral Hayes entered the observation room, her augmented limbs whirring softly. The collector vessel has left the system. No signs of additional hostiles. We're standing down from combat alert. Thank you, Admiral, Jordan said. She turned back to us. Now, I believe we were in the middle of diplomatic discussions before we were so rudely interrupted. Shall we continue? Perhaps over a fresh cup of coffee. 3 days later, our shuttle departed the Odyssey. We had toured much of the massive vessel, met with various human officials, and begun preliminary discussions about potential alliance structures. The humans had been unfailingly polite, endlessly curious, and surprisingly forthcoming about their capabilities and limitations. They had also been unmistakably clear about their position regarding the collectors and similar predatory powers. Humanity was done sitting on the sidelines as our shuttle cleared the Odyssey's gravitational field. I gazed back at the enormous ship. Its patchwork construction, I now understood, wasn't a sign of scavenging or desperation. It was a testament to human adaptability. They incorporated new technologies as they discovered them, improved upon them, then integrated them into their existing systems without discarding what already worked. What do you think the Alliance Council will decide? Nexer asked, breaking the contemplative silence. They will agree to formal diplomatic relations, Quola replied confidently. The strategic advantages are too significant to ignore. Assuming the humans can be trusted, Vok added. She'd been unusually quiet since witnessing the confrontation with the collectors. They didn't have to intervene, I pointed out. They could have let the collectors attack our fleet, or used us as hostages. Perhaps they are playing a longer game, Vok suggested, but her tone lacked conviction that I shook my head. I don't think so. They are odd, certainly. Their customs are strange. Their technology is an eclectic mix of brilliant and bewildering, and their obsession with that bitter beverage defies explanation. But I believe their offer of friendship is genuine. Based on what evidence? Vok challenged that I consider the question. Their eyes, I finally said, when they talk about protecting younger species, helping others develop without interference. There's something there, a conviction that feels authentic. Or exceptional acting, Vok muttered. Perhaps, I conceded. But consider this, if they wanted to conquer or control, why reveal themselves at all? Why not simply remain hidden, observing until they were ready to strike? Why risk exposure? No one had an answer for that. As we approached our own fleet, my communication device chimed. Message from Captain Jordan, Lieutenant Drex. We have completed analysis of your biological samples. Your species and coffee are indeed compatible. We have included a supply in your departure package, along with brewing instructions. Admiral Hayes insists it's the secret to effective diplomacy. Safe travels, and we look forward to continuing our discussions. I checked the cargo manifest. Sure enough, among the formal diplomatic documents and technical exchange proposals was a container labeled Premium Coffee Beans, Colombian origin. I laughed out loud. What's so amusing? Quola asked. I think I'm beginning to understand humans, I replied. They face down a vastly more numerous enemy, deploy technology that could revolutionize warfare throughout the galaxy, demonstrate strategic brilliance. And then what do they consider most important to share? A bitter bean drink that they themselves admit tastes terrible until you acquire a taste for it. The ways of aliens are mysterious. Nexer intoned solemnly, then cracked a smile. As our shuttle docked with the fleet's command ship, I found myself already drafting my report to the council. How does one explain humans? Their contradictions, their innovation, their inexplicable customs? Perhaps I would simply tell them what Captain Jordan told me when I asked why humans had developed so quickly compared to other species. Necessity, curiosity, competition, and coffee. Mostly coffee. I had a feeling this was just the beginning of a very strange but promising friendship.